Welcome to Dreamy Sleep Tales, a tale woven in the deepest twilight, where hope glimmers like a solitary star. Tonight, we journey to the world of Nereziel, a realm where darkness has held sway for centuries, and all that stands between eternal night and reborn dawn is a single radiant ember. Nestle into your blankets, breathe in the stillness, and let the warmth of the story carry you into the gentle embrace of sleep. In ages before memory, Nereziel was bathed in the light of twin suns. Emerald forests stretched to distant mountains, and silver rivers sang over smooth stones. But from the void beyond the stars came Faurix, the twilight worm, an ancient serpent whose breath snuffed out the twin suns and cloaked the world in an unending night. As shadows spread, civilizations fell. The great libraries of Lurath crumbled to dust. The crystal spires of Elandor shattered. Only one spark of hope remained. The heart fire, born of Arkenstyr, a fallen star whose core glowed with pure celestial flame. Tended in secret beneath the ruined Cathedral of Echoes, its light was the last bulwark against oblivion. For 10,000 years, the heart fire burned. Champions known as the Guardians of Light kept its vigil, but time claimed them all. Legends faded, and with them, the promise of dawn, until two souls rose against fate itself. Lyra Starfell had never known daylight. As a child, she learned the constellations from stories passed down by her mother. And though the sky above Nereziel was now a solid tapestry of black, she traced imaginary stars with her fingertips, believing they still hung beyond the veil. Now 18, Lyra stood on the rim of the ancient crater where Arkenstyr had struck. Her leather cloak was scarred by shadow fire, and her eyes, once bright with wonder, held the steely determination of a warrior. At her side stood Kalen Fireward, his broad shoulders draped in a mantle woven from phoenix down and steel chain. Where Lyra's heart carried longing, Kalen's bore the weight of guilt. 2 winters ago, he had failed to protect a lesser flame, and countless lives had been lost. Do you think it can still burn bright? Lyra asked, voice soft as a wing beat. Kaelin gazed at the spot where golden embers faintly glowed beneath the cracked earth. "If we stand together," he replied, "it will burn brighter than any star." Their journey had spanned half the world. From the iron pines of Serpent, where shadows moved like living beasts, to the frozen plains of Ashini, where the wind whispered of ancient magic. They had fought creatures born of darkness, tested virtues that nearly broke them, and discovered that true strength springs from unity. Together, they climbed the jagged steps leading to the Cathedral of Echoes. Enormous doors of black basalt stood before them, carved with runes that flickered like dying embers. Each rune bore the name of a past guardian, a testament to sacrifices made, victories won, and hope rekindled time and again. Kaelin rested a hand on the cold stone. "This place remembers every footstep that's crossed its threshold," he murmured. "May our steps be worthy." Lyra nodded, drawing a dagger etched with dawn runics. A relic of her ancestors, she touched it to the door. Light flared, the runes burning with renewed vigor, and the doors groaned open. Beyond the threshold lay a vast hall hollowed by centuries. Stalactites dripped crystalline water into stagnant pools. Columns, once carved to represent the twin suns, now leaned precariously, their golden leafing flaked away. Tattered banners hung like spectral whispers, each bearing the crossed sword and flame emblem of the Guardians. Lyra lit a star-glass lantern, its pale beam piercing the gloom. Motes of dust glittered like distant galaxies as they stepped inside. "Stay close," Kaelin warned, drawing Sunshard, his blade forged from Arkensteel. Even in darkness, it shimmered with pale starlight. They advanced along the cracked marble floor, moving deeper until the air grew thick with magic. Whispers curled around them, echoes of ancient hymns and half-forgotten oaths. Then the ground trembled and a distant roar rattled the pillars. Lyra's lantern flickered. "The seal, it weakens." Through the shadows ahead, they could just make out the colossal dragon's eye, carved of onyx and set into the eastern wall. Its surface was marred by fissures glowing with molten gold, the first cracks of Phorix's prison. Kaelin tightened his grip on Sunshard. "We can still bind it," he began, but the dragon eye cracked wider, and golden light cascaded outward, flooding the hall with heat. Lyra swallowed. We must descend to the heart. Side by side, they stepped onto a spiral staircase hewn from living stone. Each step echoed an invitation or a warning. They could not tell. The walls were etched with scenes of the Heartfire's origin. A star's death throes, champions rising, darkness retreating. Here and there, carvings depicted a serpent's coil, its single eye ablaze. At last, they reached the antechamber of trials, a circular room lined with towering statues of former guardians. Each statue clenched a relic, a chalice, a horn, a shield, a gauntlet. At the center lay the circle of binding, its runes dim and fractured. A voice, soft yet menacing, rose behind Lyra. Turn back, Starfell. You cannot bind what the void has claimed. Lyra whirled. No one stood there. Her own breath sounded too loud. Kaelin's hand found hers in the gloom. We face our doubts, then bind them, he said. We do not flee. Together, they stepped onto the circle of binding. Lyra pressed her dagger to the outer rune, and Kaelin set Sunshard against its opposite. The runes glowed, veins of light weaving between their weapons. But the chamber shuddered, and from the statue's shadows slithered shapes. Night wraiths hungry for the Heartfire's spark. Their touch brought cold despair. Their eyes whispered every fear and failure. Kaelin grappled a wraith, steel clanging. Lyra thrust her dagger, its runic glow scattering darkness. Each strike was a promise to protect, to endure, to hope. When at last silence fell, the circle blazed with pure light. The wraiths dissipated, shrieking into nothingness. The runes mended, and the pathway downward lay clear. Yet far below, the hiss of molten stone warned that Phorix stirred once more. Lyra inhaled the lantern smoke. We have broken the first trial, but the serpent wakes. Kaelin sheathed Sunshard. Then we shall face it together, two hearts bound in light. Hand in hand, they descended into the cavern where the Heartfire slumbered, its glow faint but unextinguished. The final reckoning awaited, and with it, the fate of Nereziel itself. Hand in hand, Lyra and Kaelin stepped through the low archway into the sanctum of reflection, the penultimate chamber before the Heartfire's resting place. The air here pulsed with ancient magics, so strong it made their skin tingle. Flickering torchlight revealed walls covered in polished obsidian mirrors, dozens of them, each reflecting not their outward forms, but their deepest fears. As they crossed the threshold, the largest central mirror rippled like liquid. In its depths, Lyra saw herself standing alone on a scorched battlefield, her hair singed, her eyes empty. Dozens of silent specters reached toward her, their outstretched hands pleading. Across the obsidian floor, Kaelin witnessed a vision of the village he failed to protect. Houses aflame, children's cries echoing down empty streets as he stood frozen. Lyra's voice quavered. These are our regrets. Kaelin swallowed hard. We must face them, or our light will falter. They stepped forward together. The other mirrors awakened in unison, glowing with a pale blue gleam that turned the hall into a kaleidoscope of remembrance. Shadows coalesced, forming phantom shapes of loved ones lost and foes they had vanquished. Each wraith whispered a blade of doubt. You betrayed me, Kaelin. You abandoned them, Lyra. Kaelin drew Sunshard and held it aloft so the blade caught every fragment of light. I have atoned, he said in a steady voice. I will not fail again. Lyra raised her dawn dagger. I carry my people's hopes. I will not hide in sorrow. Together, they advanced to the central mirror. The specters lunged, but Lyra and Kaelin stood firm, their blades carving arcs of warm light through the phantoms. Each strike shattered a fragment of the mirror's enchantment, and with every slain illusion, they felt the heavy weight of guilt lift from their hearts. When at last the central mirror cracked and shattered, the floor beneath them trembled. A hidden panel slid aside, revealing a narrow stair descending further into the earth. A stairway veined in gold light. Kaelin extended a hand. Shall we? Lyra nodded, determination blazing in her eyes. To the Heartfire, they emerged in the core chamber, a vast circular cavern whose domed ceiling vanished into darkness. At its center, on a dais of black stone carved with swirling runes, sat the heart fire. Its flame a weary glow, barely alive. Around it coiled a great iron ring, decorated with the same serpent motif as the dragon's eye above. 4 fissures in the ring bled molten gold, evidence of the prison's weakening bonds. Lyra approached and knelt beside the basin. Her fingertips tingled as she traced the ancient glyphs. "The binding seal is fractured," she murmured. "We must restore it." Kaelin checked their surroundings. Jagged stalactites dripped acidic water, and steam hissed where molten veins met the cave floor. "And we are not alone," he added softly. From the shadows slithered silhouettes, less substantial than the wraiths before, but more numerous. Night stalkers, creatures born of pure void. Their bodies coalesced of living shadow, eyes like burning coals. A low hiss filled the chamber as dozens of them advanced, rattling their clawed limbs. Lyra rose, heart pounding. "They serve the serpent. We must hold them off." Kaelin nodded and stood by the dais, sunshard ready. Lyra brandished her dagger, its runes glowing with warmth. In that moment, the last ember of the heart fire pulsed, sending a ribbon of golden light shooting toward the ceiling, an echo of its former brilliance. The Night Stalkers lunged. Kaelin met them head-on, swinging sunshard in wide arcs. Each strike released sparks of starlight that banished shadow on contact. Lyra circled behind, driving her dawn dagger through the creatures with swift, precise thrusts. Yet for every night stalker felled, 2 more poured in through the cavern's dark alcoves. Kaelin shouted over the clamor. "They're endless. We need to rekindle the heart fire to drive them back." Lyra focused on the basin's fissures. "The seal must be reforged with our blood and conviction." She pressed her dagger into her palm, letting a drop of blood fall onto the basin's edge. The runes flared, veins of gold healing over the crack. Kaelin followed suit, drawing a thin line along the ring's iron with his blade, so that his own blood seeped into the runes. The 2 drops mingled, and the entire binding ring glowed with renewed power. A shock wave of light radiated outward, striking the Night Stalkers. They shrieked and dissolved into ash as they recoiled from the purifying brilliance. The cavern grew silent but for the drip of water and the soft roar of the heart fire, now burning steadily once more. Lyra exhaled, trembling. The seal holds. Kaelin placed Sunshard into a slot carved in the ring, and the heart fire is ours to command. Together, they knelt and placed their hands atop the glowing flame. A surge of energy coursed through them. Visions of Nereziel's past glory, of forests in bloom, of children laughing beneath sunshine. Their hearts swelled with warmth and purpose. But that warmth was cut short by a deep, rumbling growl. Eyes cracked in the cavern floor. The ancient iron ring trembled, and from the coiled serpent motif hissed a voice that shook the very stones. You cannot bind me forever, tiny mortals. The ground split asunder, and from the fissure rose the colossal head of Phorix. Its onyx scales dulled by centuries, but its single eye blazing with molten gold. Wings folded against its sides like plates of living armor, and fangs dripped with molten shadow. Lyra and Kaelin rose together, blades in hand, their silhouettes lit by the heart fire's glow. The dragon god's roar echoed, a sound of shattering glass and thunder. The cavern trembled under Vahorix's roar. Molten gold dripped from the fissures in the iron binding ring, spattering against the black stone floor with a hiss like boiling water. Lyra and Kaelin crouched behind the hearthstone's dais, blades at the ready, hearts pounding with the weight of destiny. Vahorix reared, wings unfurling in a display of shadow and flame. Its single eye, a molten orb of living fire, bore down upon them with such ferocity that the very air quivered. Steam coiled around the beast's flanks as it exhaled, and in that breath swirled motes of pitch-black smoke, corrupted embers of ancient darkness. Kaelin was first to move. He leapt from cover, Sunshard blazing with starlight as he charged toward the serpent's throat. Vahorix answered with a swipe of its taloned claw, tearing at the stone floor and sending Kaelin sprawling into a rain of dust. He rolled to his feet, pain lancing in his shoulder where a scale had nicked him, and met Lyra's gaze. She nodded, grit in her eyes, and sprang into motion. In her hand, the dawn dagger gleamed like a shard of sunrise. She raced along the dais' edge, drawing the dragon's attention. Vahorix hissed and spun, fangs snapping mere inches from Lyra's face. She danced aside, weaving between the serpent's monumental talons, and slashed upward, the dagger's blade biting into a gap between scales. A gout of smoky flame burst forth, scorching the cavern walls and forcing Lyra to leap back. Kalen seized the moment, planting his boot against the binding ring. He swung Sunshard in a brutal arc, striking Vhorix's flank with a cry of effort. The blade sank deep, and gold-tinged blood erupted from the wound like liquid sunlight. The serpent howled, a sound that rattled every drop of moisture in the cavern. But Vhorix would not yield. With a shuddering motion, it threw off the binding ring shards as though shrugging off molting skin. The ring cracked and sank into the fissure below, its runes extinguishing one by one. The Heartfire's flame flickered, its life hanging by a thread. Lyra's heart seized. She sprinted to the basin and knelt, pressing her hands against the dying flame. "No," she whispered, voice trembling. "Not yet." Kalen joined her, placing Sunshard hilt first on the basin's rim. The blade quivered as though resonating with the last heartbeat of the fire. Together, they closed their eyes and summoned every shred of hope within them. Memories flashed. Lyra's first sight of starlight, Kalen's vow before the fallen villagers, their shared promise to one another. A whisper rippled through the chamber, soft as a lullaby, yet powerful enough to still Vhorix. The serpent paused, nostrils flaring, as if listening for a sound it had not heard in millennia. Lyra's eyes snapped open. "Now, Kalen." He grasped the hilt and channeled every ounce of his strength into the blade. Lyra pressed her palms to the Heartfire's basin, her blood mingling with Kalen's at the rune-carved lip. A column of pure white light shot skyward, banishing shadows in its path. The flame roared back to life, brighter and hotter than ever, its light refracting across the cavern in prismatic brilliance. Vhorix shrieked, recoiling as the hearthstone's glow coalesced into a pillar of searing radiance. The serpent's molten eye cracked, golden light spilling from the crevice. Its howls turned to desperate snarls as the light pressed in from all sides, burning away the shadows that clung to its form. With one final echoing roar, the twilight worm convulsed, and shattered, fragments of onyx and shadow raining down like fractured night. The shards dissolved into motes of brilliant light, drifting upward until they vanished into the vaulted ceiling's darkness. Silence fell. When Lyra dared to move, she found Kaelin slumped beside the basin, sweat and blood matted in his dark hair. Sunshard lay across his lap, its blade still humming with residual energy. Gently, Lyra touched his shoulder. He stirred, blinking up at her with a tired smile. "We did it," he rasped. The cavern had transformed. Where molten veins once glowed ominously, vines of golden light now curled along the walls, their tips blossoming into luminescent flowers. The stalactites dripped water no longer acidic, but clear and cool. Warm air, tinged with the scent of dawn, filled the space. Lyra rose, wiping dust from her dagger. She approached the hearthstone, cupping the hearth fire in her hands. The flame pulsed like a living heart, steady, strong, unbroken. "Look," she whispered, voice thick with wonder. Above them, in the cavern's farthest corner, a shaft of pale blue light pierced the darkness. As they watched, it widened into a pale sunrise, strange on a world long denied of suns. And then, beyond the broken ceiling, they saw it. A sky no longer black, but suffused with gentle apricot hues. Kaelin staggered to his feet. He raised Sunshard, and the blade caught the dawn's first rays. "Nereziel returns," he said, awe coloring his tone. Lyra joined him, placing her blood-stained dagger at his side. "We have rekindled the world's heart." Silence greeted their words. Then, a soft rustle. From the glowing vines emerged figures clad in white, their forms translucent yet radiant. The spirits of past guardians, drawn by the heart fire's renewed blaze, stepped into the new dawn. Each bore the marks of ancient battles, a scar here, a dented helm there, eyes gentle with gratitude. The lead spirit, a tall figure with hair like liquid silver, laid a hand upon the heart fire's basin. "Guardians," the voice was wind chimes and distant thunder. "You have broken the night's eternal hold. Nereziel shall breathe light once more. One by one, the spirits placed their hands upon the basin. A wave of energy rippled outward, stitching together cracks in the cavern's walls, guiding the golden vines up through the breaches until they reached the world above. Lyra and Kaelin stood side by side, watching as dawn's glow spread across the desolate landscape of Nereziel. Valleys that once lay drowned in shadow now bloomed with morning dew. Rivers stilled and then sparkled. Forests of blackened wood stirred with returning life. The spirits lifted their glowing forms, ascending through the fracturing ceiling toward the new skies. Their final words echoed long after their shapes faded. May the light you reignite guide hearts for generations to come. In the months that followed, Lyra and Kaelin journeyed across Nereziel, carrying embers of the heart fire to every corner of the realm, where shadows still lingered, clinging to ruined spires or hiding in hollow canyons. They rekindled beacons of living flame. In the reclaimed halls of the Cathedral of Echoes, they founded the Order of New Dawn, an academy where warriors, scholars, and healers alike learned to wield light as both shield and sword. Apprentices trained beneath vaulted frescoes that depicted Vaurix's defeat, the shattered onyx eye, the mingling of blood and flame, the final burst of dawn that scattered the eternal night. Lyra taught the young initiates the art of star casting, the weaving of starlight into wards that could heal wounds or guard against creeping shadows. She showed them how to listen to the heartbeat of the hearthstone, for in its rhythmic pulse lay the echoes of every soul it had saved. Kaelin, meanwhile, trained the Order's knights in Sunshard's path, a combat style that paired swift, flowing strikes with unwavering conviction. He emphasized that true strength came not from steel alone, but from the courage to stand firm when hope seemed lost. Under his guidance, even the most unsure recruits learned to draw power from their own compassion. Together, the pair established a council of light, composed of elders who had once been villagers, rescued from darkness, artisans whose flame-forged crafts rekindled dying industries, and scholars who studied ancient lore to prevent past mistakes from repeating. Their voices guided decisions large and small. When to send envoys to distant kingdoms, how best to distribute the heart fire's warmth, and which ruined landmarks to restore first. fields that lay fallow for centuries now bloomed with wildflowers the color of dawn. Rivers darkened by shadow ash ran crystal clear once more, teeming with fish that darted like living sapphires. Forests, long shriveled by the absence of sun, burst forth in vibrant greens, their canopies alive with birdsong. In the city of Valiskar, where Lyra had first borne her starlit lantern, children danced among jets of rekindled fountains. Kaelin encountered one young girl, no older than 7, who presented him with a bouquet of daisies, flowers he had thought extinct. Her wide eyes brimmed with pride as she declared, "I tended them myself for the light." And in that moment, Kaelin understood that the greatest legacy of the heart fire was never its flame alone, but the flicker of hope it ignited in every heart. Bards traveled from town to town, composing songs of dawn to chronicle the great deeds of the guardians. One ballad told of Lyra's dagger, how its blood had mended the final crack in the binding runes. Another celebrated Kaelin's stand at the crucible of light, when he faced the Serpent's wrath to buy Lyra time, to heal the flame. At festivals held on the equinox, lanterns carved from star glass were released into the night sky, each a promise that darkness need never overcome light. As the lanterns rose, townsfolk sang in unison, "Though shadows fall, we bear the spark. United, we shall pierce the dark." Under that chorus, even the faintest star seemed to shine more brightly. Years waned into decades, and the names Lyra Starfell and Kaelin Fireward passed into legend. They walked the world as guides and guardians, but seldom sought praise. When asked why, Lyra would smile and say, "The light belongs to all of us." Kaelin would add, "And as long as even one candle burns, hope lives on." On their final journey together, they returned to the Cathedral of Echoes, now a living monument ringed with gardens of golden blooms. There, in the sanctum of reflection, they faced no more trials. The mirrors had been reshaped to display only the joyous faces of a healed world. Hand in hand, they approached the hearthstone one last time. Lyra set her starlit dagger beside its iron rim. Kaelin placed Sunshard beside hers. The heart fire responded with a gentle pulse, as if offering its gratitude. "I suppose this is goodbye," Lyra said softly, Kalen nodded, tears shining in his eyes. Only until the stars call us again. With a farewell smile, they stepped into the golden pillar of light they had once summoned in battle. Their forms dissolved into motes of dawn and starlight, which drifted upward through the cathedral's open dome, joining the eternal dance of sunlight and moonbeams. Below, the new guardians, students of the order, watched in silent reverence. The heart fire burned stronger than ever, a beacon for all who came after. And far beyond the cathedral's walls, across the reborn land of Narasiel, children drifted into peaceful sleep, dreaming of heroes who reminded them that even in the deepest darkness, one courageous spark can set the world aflame with hope. So, dear listeners, thank you for joining me here on Dreamy Sleep Tales. As the embers of our story fade and the dawn returns to Narasiel, may your own dreams be bright and peaceful. If you found comfort in tonight's journey, please give this video a like. Subscribe to Dreamy Sleep Tales and tap the bell so you never miss another starlit adventure. Let me know in the comments which topic you'd like our next bedtime tale to explore. And don't forget to share this video with fellow dreamers. Sweet dreams, dear listener, until we meet again under the gentle glow of another tale. Good night.